All right, I am live. It's good to be live. Good to be alive and live. All right, let's flip this shit around, shall we? Flip it around so that it look. There we go. Now we can read my phone number. No, actually, I just combed my hair. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I got a haircut a week or so ago, but yeah. So, okay, I'm live on YouTube as well as TikTok. Mm-hmm. That's what my TikTok live stream says for this evening. Is we're back at war. Only this time, really for really reals. Well, thank you, Teresa. Appreciate that. I know that we're actually at war for really reals this time because Donald Trump said so, and I don't know if you know this or not, but Donald Trump doesn't exaggerate ever. He's never exaggerated in his entire life, all 42 years. Ask him. This is getting to the point now where it's a little bit ridiculous. It's a little crazy. I'm hoping that at some point we will realize that. How do I put this? Look, I'm a big guy, and I've been in a scrap or two in my life, and so I don't, am I the toughest guy in the entire world? No, probably not. But I can handle my own. But I will admit that when somebody has you by the balls as a man, that hurts. It hurts a lot. Now, if you have the capacity to get them to relinquish your balls, then you can recover. But until that time, you're pretty much theirs. They pretty much own your ass. And Iran has us by our cojones, our cuervos. And I don't mean our cuervos rancheros. I know you guys are thinking, son of a bitch, can he speak Spanish too? That's amazing. I can't. I should. I can understand a lot of Spanish. Probably most of it now that I think about it. But if I really put some effort into it for the next month, I'll bet I could really speak Spanish. No, he really didn't want to see a global recession. But that's exactly where we're going. David, how are you? Yeah, we're heading for a recession. But I will say this. We've got our foot flat on the floor. So it looks like recession right now. But if we keep accelerating towards this highway overpass embutment with the top down, with no airbags in our old 64 Rambler convertible, with no seat belt, even though it's only a lap belt, when we hit this thing at 140, well, they can't go that fast, 105. It's just going to smear us like a greasy spot all over the highway. Economically. And that is exactly what we are doing right now. Like, there's no question. Oh, no. Robert, that would literally be the worst possible outcome. You have to understand, it's not a matter of NATO not being involved. NATO is absolutely opposed to what we're doing. They're absolutely opposed to what we're doing in Israel. We are now literally falling apart. Like, NATO is going bye-bye. Now, if they should decide that they want to actually go into open warfare with Russia, I can't imagine that we as a species here in the United States are that stupid. I can't imagine it. I just can't wrap my head around it. And look, I've already factored in military industrial complex. These sons of bitches have their own bunkers. They don't care. They just want to make money. And a World War III on that scale would be an enormous amount. It would be the largest transfer of wealth since the last World War. And, you have to think about this from the standpoint of not lives, because obviously these people could care less. Your life doesn't matter. Your life it's disposable. That's what you were put here for. Well, that's, the obvious outcome right now is if we, and the Straits of Hormuz, as of right now, are closed. Trump says we're still negotiating. Iran says, no, we're not negotiating. That's done. And we won't start negotiating again anytime soon. That's what the official word from Iran is. Now, the official word from Trump is, oh, no, this is fine. It's okay. Which really worries me. What about the petrodollar? How long will it last? Well, as long as we've got nukes, we've got some power. So, but the petrodollar over the next 5 years will fade to nothing. You've got Saudi Arabia. They just signed a deal directly with China that said that China, they will have a special relationship with China, not just now, but for the next 50 years. Well, that was right after their 50-year agreement with the United States ended. So why would they say 50 years? Because they were being very specific. They were saying, look, America, done. U.S., thank you very much. Go away. We're done. We don't look. It's not us. It's you. So because of that, they are weaning themselves off the petrodollar as we speak. That leads me to believe, and this is something that most people are not paying attention to unless they're in the bullion business, and then they're just paying way too much attention to it. And that is, if the petrodollar age ends, we will be in a position where our economic strength as a country, which is theoretically what backs the dollar now. Remember Nixon's. I wish I weren't such a fucking idiot caveman, because if I weren't, I would go and be able to mix videos in with my videos, and I would play for you pieces of Richard Nixon's 1971 speech. And one of the things that he said was that we were going to temporarily suspend the conversion of the American dollar into gold. Now, nothing is as permanent as a temporary government program. We all know that. Once a program gets started and people put their hands out and all of the slick fuckers figure out their way to bribe their way into the programs never end. So that's where we're at with that. But when he said we're gonna end the convertibility of the U.S. dollar into gold temporarily, he also talked about the fact that we were going to use a basket of goods to replace one single good, which is gold. Because gold is, gold's one thing. And yeah, gold's nice and gold is rare and gold has, got gold backs right here. These are gold. These are actually made of gold. But you can't spend money that you don't have if you have it backed by gold. You have to have the gold. And based on the value of gold that day, you can have a certain amount of dollars out in circulation that represent that amount. It's so simple. It's too simple. Because when it comes right down to it, figures never lie, but liars always figure. So if the figures are very simple, you have 262 million ounces of gold. Okay, what's the spot price? Spot price is $1. Okay, so we have $262 million worth of gold. Yes. How many dollars are in the M1 money supply? 400 million. Okay, well, you better make 138 million of them disappear like right now. Why? Because you're over. You have more dollars than you have gold to back it. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess we'll pull in that money. Oh, you will. Well, you know what you're going to do, right? You're going to make the value of those dollars skyrocket by doing that. Less dollars, more value per dollar. Well, then what happens? Well, then if that were the case, then gasoline goes from 25 cents a gallon down to 10 because your dollar's stronger. Milk goes down to 5 cents for a gallon of milk because the dollar's stronger. Milk didn't cost any different, but the value of your dollar just skyrocketed. So it seems like milk went down in price. Now, how do I know this? Because in 1975, the average home price was about $25,000, and the average price of silver was $1.50. Therefore, it took, I want to say, 12,800 ounces of silver to buy a house. Okay. Well, I mean, if silver is the currency, then you give the guy his 12,800 and he gives you title to this beautiful new house. Awesome. 12,800 ounces. That's pretty reasonable, I guess. What is it today? Well, because silver's actually real money, today, the average price of a home is not 25 grand, obviously. It's 410,000. So today it takes 8,400 ounces of silver, not 12,800. It takes less silver to buy a new home today. Yeah, because the price of a new home in the United States is $410,000. So in the 70s, it took 12,800 ounces. Now it takes 8,400 ounces. So am I supposed to believe that with all the new air conditioning systems and double pane glass windows with nitrogen filling in them and all the crazy bullshit heated floors and all the stuff, and there's no fumes in the carpet anymore, and the paint doesn't have noxious, like, wait, these houses are so much better than they were back then. Yeah, and if you used real money, they'd be way cheaper too. They don't feel cheaper because you're not using real money. That's the problem. So what happens when you take this gold out from behind all of this, the money, and then now you just make whatever you want? Okay, well, let's say you're the government. Well, the government's fiscally responsible, right? That's what Republicans are for. I laugh as I drink my nothing natural about this colored drink. But it's got a huge amount of artificial caffeine in it. And when I say artificial caffeine, it's actually produced from coal tar, but it has the same basic, the same fundamental, what's the word I'm looking for? See, it's already kicking in. It has the same effect on your central nervous system as real caffeine. It's just cheaper to produce. So anyway, bottom line is we've completely fucked the system. Now that we don't have anything to back our currency except a, quote, basket of goods. What is a basket of goods? What does that mean? Well, it means, all of our label, our labor, let's see, a manufacturing. Well, you probably know this already, but if you don't, I'll break it to you softly. We don't have any manufacturing to speak of. We still manufacture stuff, but not like we used to. We turned all that over to India and China and Vietnam or the island of Mindanao or wherever we could get the cheapest child labor. That's where corporations went. And yes, I do think that corporations are the basis, like industrialization too, but really industrialization through the use of corporations is to blame for everything that's wrong with the world right now. That's pretty obvious because corporations are psychopathic. They do whatever they want. They have no remorse. They have no empathy. They have no sympathy. They don't care about regulations. The only thing that they want is what they want. Profit. Profit, period. Can you imagine if I had 100,000 men and women and I told them, I don't care what you do, just make money. And they were all psychopathic. They would literally destroy the entire planet in the pursuit of making money. Well, there you go. Yeah, that's why we have something like, Chevron, Standard Oil, DuPont, 3M, Bayer. It's just crazy. They don't care about their shareholders. Let's get that right, because that's what they say. But that's like saying that I'm protecting you. Well, why? Because I care about you. Well, why do you care about me? Oh, you're the one who take care of me financially. Oh, so I'm not actually protecting you because I care about you. Well, yeah. No, I care about myself. That's the problem. I do everything I do because I care about my shareholders. They, with their life savings in some cases. And by God, I'm going to do everything I can to show them that that trust was well placed. Ooh, God, doesn't that sound like some shit that would come out of a CEO's mouth? But it is just that. It's shit. What I'm saying is, I have so much fucking stock in this company, and I have so many stock options that are on the table that if I can fuck around with the actuaries and get this turd of a company to look like it's doing well for just 2 more quarters, I get my stock options and fucking bail and leave these idiots holding the bag. There are no more Democratic Party. They are communist. That's stupid and wrong. Also, it is stockholders that demand more. More what? More profit? No, that's actually a law. It's actually written in the law that if a CEO of a company does not do whatever is necessary lawfully to make more money for the company, they can be charged for that. Let's see. Thank you for telling it. Well, hey, it is what it is. The bottom line is that it's all a racket. Well, it's not supposed to be, but yes, it is now. It is now. And, how does that happen? I've said this so many times now that I'll say it again. Humans have not evolved to the point where we can do this. We are still fight or flight, having to worry about what's going to eat us after dark, building campfires and all that shit. And, the thing that makes us happy is the struggle to find safety, to find what makes us feel like we matter. And so for women, that's family. For men, that's family, but it's two different areas of family. Men are charged with keeping the rest of the family safe, building the structure, going out hunting. Women are charged with making sure that these 2 little blank slates turn into something whole, something good. both very, very good jobs, very difficult jobs, and so that's what we don't have anymore. We don't have anything that looks like struggle other than this sort of esoteric, like, God, what is the meaning of life? Stay alive, don't get eaten. Stay alive, don't get eaten. No, there's got to be more than that. Well, I mean, in a world where food falls out of a microwave into your lap, where you can literally pick up a phone. I mean, think about that. Yeah, I want a pizza. Thank you. Okay. Oh, do you want my card number? And whoop. Okay, there we go. Yeah, thank you. Ding, ding. Oh, hey, it's here. I mean, it's fucking like people who shouldn't be surviving are surviving. And when I say that, I don't just mean the people that you think like, oh, he's such an idiot, he can't survive. No. Those people would be protected in a village situation. Like every village has an idiot, and there's a reason that they have the idiot, because the idiot in the village is usually the one who does a lot of the chores, the simple stuff. Everybody likes him, always got a smile on his face. I mean, use he because typically it's more men than women by a long shot. Why, I don't know, but the bottom line is that village idiot is somebody that everybody seems to like. Everybody takes care of that person like they are part of the family. So the village idiot is actually something that, back in the day was really kind of part of your family. Now, there are those who would ruthlessly make fun of the village idiot. They didn't survive very long. Those were the psychopaths who didn't want to participate in all the reindeer games. Like, hey, help me build my house. Everybody in town shows up. Help me clean this up. Everybody shows up. When somebody else says it, you show up. Psychopaths don't do that. Psychopaths want what they want, and if it's not something that they want, they can't be a part of a community. It's simply not physically possible for them. That part of their brain doesn't work. So we weeded out very quickly the psychopaths in small communities. Look, you're either in or you're not in. You're one of us or you're not one of us. So now we're in this situation where psychopaths get to be the most powerful among us because they're the ones that are the most glib, and they're the ones that are the most sort of slick. And it's all very surface, but does anyone care beyond surface anymore? I mean, this is not a civilization built on principles. It's a civilization built entirely on personalities now. So if your personality is fantastic, or you have an amazing set of boobs, or you have a really chiseled chin and great abs, well, yeah, people just put up with you, and maybe if you're mean enough and driven enough, you'll make it to the top of the corporation because you just won't take no for an answer. And you don't care who you have to step on to get to the top. That doesn't sound like somebody I would want to be around, but that's it. Can you put the ball in the basket? Exactly. I mean, these are things that we actually value. When I see even friends of mine that burn their intelligence, and I mean literally burn their intelligence on things like knowing the sports scores for teams that I probably wouldn't even recognize what sport they were in. I do not understand that. And there are millions, tens of millions of men in the United States that can tell you what somebody's batting average is, what they can hit as a percentage from a three-point zone. I don't even know what the stats are, so I can't even make fun of the stats because I don't know what those stats would be. But that's what they care about, and that's what they memorize. And they go so in depth that they memorize hundreds of thousands of these numbers. literally hundreds of thousands of these numbers and names and places and dates. And then in the ultimate, in my opinion, the ultimate way to give up your manhood, they join a fantasy sports team. Fantasy. I had a couple fantasies myself when I was a teenager, but usually they because I had a couple Playboys hidden under my mattress. To me, that was like, what are you going to fantasize about? Well, I'm going to fantasize about putting together a pretend team that's so good that they go 16-0 next football season. What? Yeah, they're gonna go on. They're gonna be undefeated. Well, of course they are. How can they be defeated? They don't even exist. No, they exist. Here, it's like, oh wow, have we got? Is that where we're at now? Is that where we're at? Because I don't want to be there. That is so sad. And what does it mean? It just means that you're just part of the you're another cog in the machine, another brick in the wall, as they say. But all of this, when we bring it back around, what does it have to do with the fucking Iran war? We let the Iran war happen. We let the Iran war happen. We let this thing with Israel, this genocide that they're committing, we let that happen. And, that's not my opinion. It's not misinformation, Tic Tac, so fuck you. It's not misinformation. Don't shut me off. The UN is calling it genocide, not me. Although I'm agreeing with them for one of the very first times in my life. So, did Iraq have to happen? Think about that for just a second. The Iraq war and the Afghanistan war cost us 6,000 of our best people. Thousands. A small town's worth of human beings got killed over what? Nothing. Over absolutely nothing. The government said it was a mistake. And it's like you hear these stories. These women say, "Oh yeah, he beat me up. He broke my arm. He crushed my orbital, and broke my nose." And but the thing is, he admitted he was wrong. Okay, good. It's great. So you went back to it. Yeah, of course. Because he admitted he was wrong. What? And that's where we're at. It's like, okay, so Afghanistan was bullshit. Iraq was total bullshit, completely made up. Had absolutely nothing to do with anything. Nothing. Trump knows Bibi lied about Iran, but what can he do about it now? What can he do about it? Here's the problem. When Bibi came over here, right after Trump took office, Bibi was the first one here. Man, boom, Johnny on the spot, like fucking Domino's Pizza, 30 minutes or less, he was in the White House. And right before the election, the Israelis had shown how they could reach out and kill anyone, anywhere, at any time. Because they'd given pagers to all of Hezbollah. All of the senior people in Hezbollah were walking around with these pagers for weeks, months. And then all of a sudden, one day, They all exploded simultaneously all over Europe and the Middle East. Killed innocent people, whatever. Who gives a shit? They're just Goyim. They're just Gentiles. But they did actually kill several really senior Hezbollah officials. Okay, all right, cool. Well, that's, I mean, if you think they're the bad guys, if they really are the bad guys, then, do that. First thing he did when he came over here after Trump was elected was he gave Donald Trump a golden pager after they had just used pagers to kill people they didn't like. He gave Donald Trump a gold-plated pager. Not a conspiracy theory. Absolutely true. What? Why would you do that? Like, wasn't Donald Trump that was part of this Hezbollah sabotage thing? He didn't help with the assassinations at all. So why would he be given a golden pager? Like, look, if I designed the pagers, and I'm the one who snuck PETN in them, really high explosive, then yeah, you know what? As a retirement thing, the government of Israel has me come over there and they present me with this golden pager that I get to keep for myself. And then, they probably give me a plaque that says, true patriot of Israel, whatever. Trump didn't have anything to do with that. So why did they give him a golden pager? Well, I can tell you why the people in the White House thought they did it, because they were really upset. They thought it was an implicit threat. They thought that the message was, hey, so glad you're back in office. Hope you don't have to get a pager of your own other than maybe this golden one. But the point was definitely made. And Trump didn't take it as a joke, and his staff didn't take it as a joke. But I can tell you that after Butler, Pennsylvania, I don't think that Donald Trump's sense of humor about being assassinated is great. I don't think he's got a great sense of humor about that. So that might have played into it. But I can tell you this. We're in Iran for one reason and one reason only. Israel. That's it. That's it. The White House posted something. This was, I want to say July of last year. So about a year ago today. The White House posted on their website that the Iranian nuclear program had been obliterated, and that any news to the contrary, any reports to the contrary at all, were fake news, because it had, in fact, been obliterated. Now, I know we've done this before, but let's do it again just for fun. What is the meaning of the word obliterated? Obliterated means to destroy, wipe out, or completely remove something so that absolutely no trace or remnants remain. It's a strong word. That's a strong word. I have obliterated a lot of beers in my life. And I mean that, like obliterated. They were empty. But I don't. No trace or remnants remain. I feel like I'm in that movie, Princess Bride. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Why, Lori? Loving your cats? So, I guess the whole obliterated thing. By the way, that's not misinformation. That was actually on the White House website. You can still go there today, and you'll still find it. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, you're saying making corn fed, you're taking that experimental shit. Is it killing you? No, no, it's not. I've had I've had a few of these today, so my appetite's not completely gone. Because when I say a few, I mean 10, maybe 12. But my first day, do you believe there's any uranium? Absolutely not. No. Well, I mean, like unenriched uranium, yeah, I'm sure there are. See, the thing is that we we've been playing this game, and this game is a very tricky game, and it takes a lot of carrot and stick. And Donald Trump right now is all stick. That's you can't do that. You especially can't do that with the Iranians after they've been digging in, watching North Korea, learning from them, digging into these enormous granite mountain ranges they have that run throughout their entire country. They've been digging into these mountains and building underground, basically highways and bases for 47 years. Now, let's try to remember what we were doing, let's say 50 years ago. 50 years ago was what, 1976? We were celebrating the bicentennial. Captain and Tennille were probably at the top of the charts. Chico and the Man was probably what you watched on Friday night. Maybe Red Fox and his son with the show about the junkyard, something like that. Could have been All in the Family, but that's what was going on back then. Since then, they have been using all of the money that they could get from oil, and that would be Sanford and Sons, exactly. Thank you. And that would be hundreds of billions of dollars to dig tunnels, to build infrastructure under entire granite mountains. You could drop a nuke on that. It's not going to do anything. That's why we have Thunder Mountain. Thunder Mountain is literally a granite mountain. And we built a base inside that granite mountain that would take a direct hit from a 20 megaton nuclear warhead. 20 megatons is fucking huge. It is enormous. The largest atom bomb ever released was the Tsar Bomba. It was a Russian thermonuclear weapon that was 50 megatons. So nukes ain't going to cut it. Like you could kill all the civilians. You can kill a lot of civilians with those nukes. Of course, that would be genocide on a scale that the world's never even conceived of. So I can't imagine anybody is that stupid. Thunder Mountain? Thunder Mountain's in Idaho. I know that. Or is it Colorado? Where is Thunder Mountain? Big Thunder Mountain Railroad in Disneyland is not what I was talking about. Let's see. Well, NORAD, Thunder Mountain. NORAD will probably whittle it down a bit. NORAD Cheyenne Mountain Complex, often romantically linked to the fictional Thunder Mountain, is a highly classified, not so much, military bunker located near Colorado Springs, Colorado. Oh shit, I didn't know it was all the way down there. Well, it's not that far from me. Built 2,000 feet beneath the granite surface, it serves as the alternate command center and critical reserve asset for the United States, or for the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD. And by the way, the backdrop to a fantastic movie called War Games. Yep. War Games was a fun movie. Matthew Broderick. I don't even remember the girl's name, but man, did I have a crush on her in 1986. Jesus. I was like, that's my wife. I'm going to marry that girl. She's definitely ride or die. I'm marrying that one. Get your facts straight. I am leaving your site. Oh no, don't do that, Mitzi. Mitzi, come back. Mitzi. What, by the way, what the fuck are they talking about? Is there anything leading up to that? Because usually people like that have like they simmer for a while and they say stuff like, why do you hate women, or why do you hate gay people, or they just make some weird shit up. So, but damn it, they left. Mitzi. Babe. Fuck, I lost her. Oh, God. Just when I thought we had something. By the way, thanks, John. The camera's over here, but my computer's over here. So sometimes I don't see what you've written until after. Charles? Yes, it is a fun day. Oh, well. Mitzi. It may be over, Mitzi, but we'll always have Thunder Mountain. Thinking about the U.S. What's the U.S. going to do in Iran? That falls under the heading of fuck around and find out. We are literally at the crossroads. Okay? One path leads us to a little bit of, indignation and embarrassment, and perhaps the beginning of the end of our hegemony. The other path leads us down a war that will take a dozen years to lose. It will cost us tens of thousands of American lives. It will kill millions of innocent Iranians who don't give two shits about the United States. They don't care about us. They don't want to hurt us. They don't want to help us. They don't want to do anything with us. If we wanted to sell them Levi's and Budweiser in exchange for some of their oil, they'd be super happy with that. But that's it. The average person in Iran is very young because of their extremely brutal war with Iraq. The amount of people over 70 is, men over 70 is very, very small. And so consequently, they don't want to fight with anybody. They just want to get on with their lives. However, they also don't want Israel to tell them what to do all the time. And they don't want to watch Israel kill Muslims because they're Muslims. And I think it's pretty obvious now, after seeing what happened on October 7th, took the IDF 7 hours to respond. 7 hours to respond? I did the math. If I had been at the edge of the West Bank, I could have walked to the fence line of Gaza in that amount of time. Walked there. And you're telling me that this incredible military machine they've got, the most surveilled country in the world by far, way more than China. There are cameras everywhere. Heat sensors, ground sensors to pick up vibrations, all of that. Nobody responded for 7 hours? See, Joe, it's guys like you that make sure that we stay in the Republican-Democrat paradox. That's an old story. Move on. Who killed Kennedy? Who gives a shit? Charlie Kirk? Whatever. He's been dead 2 weeks. Who gives a fuck? You're the perfect stooge for them. You are literally what Democrats and Republicans pray for. Yeah, whatever. That was last week. Yeah, we spent 10 years in Iraq, 15 years in Afghanistan. Who gives a fuck? It's just money. Yeah, it's your money. But if you're wealthy enough that you don't care, go for it. And as a matter of fact, if you want to pay my taxes next year, that'd be awesome. I would love that. Right. But they didn't know. And so, 1,700 people die. That's a lot. That is a tragedy. So they react by leveling the entirety of Gaza and killing 680,000 people. 380,000 of which are 5 years old or younger, infants even. So Charlie Kirk went from Israel is sacred. We must always do whatever Israel needs to protect them and I watched him do it. I watched it in real time as he said things like, I've been to the fence line there in Gaza and I've seen that every 20 feet there's some young 20-year-old guy with a machine gun. Where were they? Was there a stand down order? I'm not saying that Israel did this on purpose, but where was everybody? Those were the questions he was asking right before he got killed. So, well, Kamaria, that's either a different language or woo. Your spell check and the fact that you're drinking shots of NyQuil, it's adding up to, I don't know what the fuck you wrote there. But I'll give it a try. Horals, ridges, transformasi, loops, lingerprint. Oh, that's what you meant. Anyway, well, I guess it might be Latin. It's a good point. It's a good point. I never took Latin. I found out that this girl that I'm friends with, she was telling me how she studied Latin. I'm pretty sure, did she say, I think she said in middle school. Yeah, she did. She said in middle school. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. And I said, oh, so you went to a private school. No. She went to a fucking public school. In Nebraska. What? In Nebraska? And you're probably thinking, well, way back then, well, she's not quite as old as I am. She's a lot younger than me. So they're still teaching Latin in some schools, that makes me feel good. You know, it's funny because when I was a kid, I would have been like, biblical, that's bullshit. But oh man, this is a tough one. It was a common high school in the 90s. I think that's when she was born. So she wasn't in high school in the 90s. I came, I saw, I conquered. Yes. I know a little bit. I mean, I've taught myself some Latin because I had a court case once in a federal court, and I decided after pissing away most of my life savings in 1 month that it was time to defend myself. And of course, everybody said, "You're out of your mind. You do not go into a federal court without an attorney. Even an attorney doesn't defend themselves." And I said, "Yep, I know." So I went into federal court and defended myself. And I won the case, which is kind of miraculous. I'd like to say it's because I'm a super genius, but that's not really it. I mean, that was part of it. That's part of it. But I did learn that I needed a lot of Latin because a lot of law is still hidden in Latin on purpose, by the way. Hi, Monica. Well, you need a lot of money if you're going to have an attorney. That's a fact. Ugh. Let's see here. It's funny they don't mention war games in the description of Cheyenne Mountain. Oh man, it's just a total long, complicated pain in the ass. But it was just I pissed off somebody that had billions of dollars, and they told me do what I told you or else, and it was unethical. And so I said, well, I guess after 20 years of knowing each other, this is where I tell you to go fuck yourself. It felt good morally. From a moral standpoint, I totally had the high ground. It cost me everything. I lost everything. I got divorced, lost millions of dollars on my house and cars and everything. Went from went from a Ferrari to sleeping in a garage. Literally. By God, I had the moral high ground. Unfortunately, that is something that's not curable. If I could take a pill that made me just not give a shit, then I would. But that whole thing about fair, no, I lost pretty much every dime I had, millions of dollars. But I gained a huge amount of respect from everybody I knew because they literally couldn't believe that I actually won the case. They were like, "That's impossible. You don't just walk into federal court, especially when you're up against literally 4 of the best law firms in Los Angeles. Like, how do you do that?" And I said, well, it was easy. Well, that's the problem. See, that's one of the things that my attorneys never said a word about. When we started this, I got the lawsuit, called an attorney, and I said, "Hey, listen, when this is all said and done, if we win, shouldn't I get reimbursed for all of this?" And they literally said, "You know what? Don't worry about that right now. Let's just worry about winning the case." I said, "Okay, sure, that's good advice." I found out afterwards, no. When you respond to the complaint, the initial complaint, you have to stipulate right then and there in your initial response that not only do I not admit to doing this, I didn't do it. And by the way, once I prove that I didn't do it, I want these fuckers to pay me for this. And it depends on, I mean, you can get punitive damages up to treble damages, 3 times what you spent. That would have been a lot of money, but nobody told me. And so when I finally talked to a court clerk, 3-4 months in, I said, by the way, when do I ask for damages? And they said, well, you have to do that in the initial complaint. And I said, you're fucking kidding, right? He said, no. I was like, wow, okay, well, it's a little late in the game by then. So, yeah, I learned a lot about the legal system. I learned that it's ridiculous. I did learn that some judges, like this was a federal judge. I learned that judges are very good at smelling bullshit, whether it comes from a defendant or an attorney. That was interesting. When you talk about a judge, you just think, some schmuck in a black robe who thinks he's better than everybody else. Actually, yeah, that pretty much describes judges to a T. But they are good at one thing, and well, most of them, not all of them. And again, that's this. Being a judge, you literally have everyone's future, their entire life, in the palm of your hand while they're in your courtroom. The idea that we had DEI hiring for judges, I absolutely can, to this day, I still cannot believe that you would do something that stupid as a society. Like affirmative action. Yeah, okay. Now, if you said affirmative action was necessary for a little while for universities, okay, just to give somebody a chance to, catch up, sure. But we're not going to hire the best judge because we have to hire one that's a woman. Why? Because it's time. But what if she's not the best qualified? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Oh, okay. Well, there you go, I guess. Well, actually, she's got to be a black woman. Oh, well, now this is getting real specific, isn't it? Yep. Very, very specific. That's why when Joe Biden promised while he was running that he would definitely get a black woman for vice president, I was like, what? That's insane. All right, Penn. I look forward to hearing from you. Oh, yeah, you got the number right there. I just thought that's insane. What are you talking, 4% of the population? You're going to cut out 96% of the fucking population because they're not black and a woman? Why don't you just pick the best person? No. Can't do that. Why? Because we have to make make black women happy. Wait, I just fucking said they're only like 4% of the population. Yeah, but we have to pander to them. What? We got to pander. Why do we have to pander to them? Because they're 4.5% of the population. It's almost like, do you not know how majority stuff works? Like, no, you don't change everything to make the 4.5 happy. It's the 50% or more. Unless, of course, you feel guilty for something that you may or may not have even been alive for, but whatever. I don't think so. I'm praying to God it doesn't. Does affirmative action still exist? Yes. Are you kidding me? Wow. That's nuts. That's crazy. How? How's that possible? How is it possible that affirmative action still exists? That's at least it's been banned in U.S. college admissions. Who brought it in? Democrats. Does racism still exist? Oh, you bet your ass it's worse now than it ever has been. Worse than it's ever been. It's all underground, unsaid, unspoken. It is worse than it's ever been, ever. But you're only allowed to talk about half of it. The other half does not exist. Period. Well, Robert, 8% of our DNA is not human. Well, not sure where you're going there, because clearly, if it's our DNA, I can only speak for myself as a Homo sapien sapien. Yeah, it's Homo sapien DNA. If you sucked it out of my ass with a syringe, it's mine. From a virus millions of years ago. Well, now we have, 96% of our DNA at one point was believed to be junk DNA, and then they figured out that no, it's actually not junk at all. The DNA that we have is all there for a reason. We just don't know what all those reasons are yet. But now that we've finally mapped the entire human genome, we know that there's some crazy shit going on back there, and that we have echoes of the past. And look, am I 100% Homo sapien? No, obviously. I have blue eyes and blonde hair and fair skin. I'm at least part Neanderthal. So when you go back and do the homework, which I've studied this for years and years. I remember when they used to think that we evolved from Neanderthals. That was back in the early 90s. So we've learned a lot in the last 30 years, but we used to think that we actually evolved from them and that they didn't go extinct. They were us. Well, now we know they're not us. Neanderthals are definitely not Homo sapiens. They're a completely different species, just like Denisovans, or just like Homo habilis would have been. Now, we never ran into them because we weren't around when they were. But it looks like we were around when Denisovans were around. Well, what are Denisovans? Well, we don't fucking know. We don't know what they were, but they were huge. We know that. Could they have been where you get the stories of giants? Well, maybe. They were 20% larger than us on average is what it looks like based on their genes. They were huge. And so, and they, by the way, they also interbred with Neanderthals. Apparently, I wouldn't know about this, but apparently humans, Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo florensis, the little hobbits in Indonesia, apparently get us drunk and we'll fucking mess with anybody. We'll have sex with anything. So that's how we ended up with part of the Neanderthal DNA in us. We literally lived in caves with them in like the Levant in Israel for 60,000 years. That's a long time to cohabitate. Damn, I lived with my ex for a few years and it almost killed me. Of course, she's not as smart as a Neanderthal, so that's where it really broke down. What is this? With affirmative action, will Republicans have a 4% candidate? No, not anytime soon. Solar flare reports. Yeah. If you haven't bought my book, you probably should go to the channel right there, because there's some interesting things happening in the solar system right now. And you want to keep track of what's going on with the sun very, very, very closely for the next couple of days, because we have a fucking monster of a sunspot that has just turned in and is pointing directly at us. What is, I saw scam backs with brown, blue, green eyes. What? Ken. We can't laugh with you, bro, because we don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, let me take a look real quick. I am not exactly excited about what I saw. It actually scares the shit out of me, because this sunspot group is fucking huge, and it is rotating in. It'll be pointing directly at us for the next few days. All right, come on, guys. I don't want this. That's old news. Do they have any ESA? Come on, guys. Get with the program. What is this? Oh, Stanford. I don't want to talk to those guys. Goodbye, Stanford. Thank you, but no, thank you. By the way, I just want to say to the people at NASA who laughed at me back in 2014 and 2015, I think you and everyone understand. Okay, yeah, sure. Awesome. Yeah, what you said, I agree. Anyway, so stereo, come on, baby. This is a pain in the ass. Come on, NASA. There was a big study that was done that just came out that said the sun has a direct effect on the weather on this planet. Hey, NASA, I was right. All those years ago, 11, 12 years ago, when you literally looked at me like I was out of my mind and laughed and said, you don't actually mean the sun controls weather. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And they said, it's 93 million miles away, man. I mean, yeah, it's a big source of power, but it's far away. It doesn't affect our weather. Yeah, okay, sure it doesn't. Well, that apparently did not age well for them. Okay, I'm gonna have to come up with a completely different list of stuff. Space weather overview. NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. Thank you, boys, girls. X-ray flux is green. Solar proton flux. I know it sounds like something out of a fucking silly comedy sci-fi movie. It's not. This is real stuff. The solar X-ray flux is all good. Solar proton flux is all good. Geomagnetic activity is super chill right now. I don't know about that. Ask any of the dozens of women that have been smart enough to avoid me. They'll tell you otherwise. Let's see here. I'm trying to find observations. Boom. All right, coronagraph. Holy shit, what is this? Hang on, guys. Wait a minute. This is the GOES. This is the GOES satellite, and it's showing. It looks like a full halo. Now, a full halo means that it comes right at you. Okay, is this today? This is, yeah, 629, 628, crossing over to 629, and boom. Okay, it's not monstrous, and it doesn't appear to be moving very fast. All right, let's take a look at the Enlil spiral, which, by the way, the Enlil spiral is as the Earth, or as the sun is turning. When one of these things explodes, it explodes and goes around, obviously. So it looks like, well, it's a spiral. And so if it shoots directly at us, but it's moving away, then it probably won't hit us. If it shoots out directly before it gets to us, that spiral will run into us. In this case, it looks like a slow-moving CME. When is this? Okay. I got this. They're showing 28th, 29th. All right, so let's just guess it'll hit us tomorrow. Gave who 50 years? Wait. Who is? You even think I would tell you if they knew? They would. I don't know. If they knew. Winning as a Democrat. If it's any consolation, I had 300,000 stolen from me by Timothy Durham. He gave him 50 years in a Kentucky prison. Man, that's a lot of money. All right, so yes, we should be aware of the fact that the sun could reach out and touch us. And I don't mean in a friendly way. Okie dokie. Let's find. I was so sad when Above Top Secret got shut down. That was fun. It was a fun little situation. There's all kinds of crazy shit on there. Most of which was just that shit, but it was fun. Okay. Yeah, you can have a coronal mass ejection that's fairly slow moving, and then you can also have one that comes, and it basically has to do with the amount of force that the sun sneezes with. That's the way I describe it to people. It just makes more sense that way. And the bottom line is that the other issue is you can have a solar sneeze that's slow, like this one, but then behind that you'll have another one, and it will actually catch up to the first one and make the first coronal mass ejection create an even higher solar storm. And the reason it does that is because the first one, as it's pushing its way through space, literally pushes all of the debris and dust that's floating around in space out of the way. The second one catches up with it, and it's kind of like in the surf. You'll see a slow moving wave, and another one will catch up from behind, and it'll turn it into twice as big a wave. Different velocities, exactly. By the way, we've had a lot of volcanoes and a lot of earthquakes. And I don't normally care about that. But no, I haven't seen anything about that. But I can tell you that the earthquakes have made me a little nervous because we've had, and they're totally unrelated, by the way. That's the weird part. They're unrelated to each other. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. Is they're unrelated to each other, but are they really completely unrelated? We don't know yet. Okay. Goes imagery. That looks pretty quiet. Regional and mesoscale meteorology branch. I didn't even know NOAA had a branch like that, but that's a big title. The Goes Loop of the Day page. Wow. That's crazy. We got a lot of imagery in here. Good deal. Loop. That's weird. That's from 22. I don't know why we would do that. Let's see here. The last I saw, we weren't that worried about it, but only dome home survive B gauge. Huh. NOAA has all the solar flare prediction charts. Yep. Let's see. I don't think, let's see. No, Solar One, a new era of space weather monitoring. That's funny. I've been space weather monitoring for years now, and finally they're taking on the task. It's like, well, thank you very much, NOAA. I'm glad I'm not out here on my own getting called a nutcase. Now, where is Solar One going to be? Orbit next to an image of the sun, producing, 1 million miles away. It's only going to be 1 million miles? That doesn't sound very far. I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, if you're moving 25,000 miles an hour. The world's fourth mass coral bleaching event likely ended in 2025. Now, wait a minute. Al Gore told me that all the coral was going to be gone. Al, I want my money back. Al. Polar bears would have no place to to party. Remember that by 2020, or was it 20? Or was it 2000? I don't even remember. It's been so long. When did the movie An Inconvenient Truth come out? Oh my God, 2006. Oh my God, this is fucking fantastic. You guys are going to love this. Is somebody asked Google, is global warming 100% proven? AI overview. Yes, the fundamental reality of human-caused global warming is as scientifically proven as the theory of gravity or evolution. With over 99% of actively publishing climate scientists agreeing that human activities are the primary driver. Isn't that amazing? That is absolutely amazing. Yeah, the guy who invented the internet. You guys had a 5.7 up there. Yeah, I saw that. Not a big earthquake, but still, it's any earthquakes that are along those fault lines. Oof. Millions of hot cars. Yep. No, it's not that it's not important. Yep, that's exactly right. Albie's got that's exactly 100% it. See, the thing is, it's not even that they are outwardly dishonest about it. What happens is, if you want grant money to write a paper, you want to do some studies on global climate change, and you're asking for $5 million from a certain foundation. If the point of your studies is to prove that global warming is man-made, you are guaranteed the money. If the point of your studies are to find out what the underlying causes of global warming actually are, whether they're man-made or not, you'll never get a dime. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows if you want funding, you've got to put it in such a way that you're going out to find out that, again, it's man-made. Well, if you want tens of millions of dollars, you want to be able to, break off a slice of that, maybe 10, 20, 30%, to buy yourself a nice home and a nice, comfortable retirement. Well, then write the fucking report the way it's supposed to be reported. Or go out on your own. Yeah, the thing about the inconvenient truth is that literally since it came out, the globe has not gotten hotter overall. And because of that, they stopped calling it global warming. Now they call it man-made climate change. You notice the difference? You notice that they call it something completely different now? That's why. Absolutely amazing. God, what a bunch of horse shit. And now we've got all of these weird articles coming out, like what's going on with the Atlantic overturning meridional current. What? What current? Well, you're onto something there, buddy, because global cooling is what happens when the Atlantic overturning meridional current, the conveyor belt of water that goes around the world, just like in the movie Day After Tomorrow. When that shuts down, you don't get any warm water up into the northern climes. Anything above pretty much Portugal will be frozen. Does this happen? Yeah, it happens. It's happened all the time. Well, it hasn't happened in a few thousand years, but yeah, it does happen. Have we had any heat waves over the last couple thousand years? There have been a few heat waves, but we've also had some grand solar minimums. Now, if the Atlantic overturning meridional current shuts down at the same time we go into a solar grand minimum, man, I hope you own a coat, because global warming will not be the problem. That's right. Mother Nature always makes sure that everything works out. And so, one of the things, obviously that's one of the things I look at. I look at, what's going on with the climate, what's going on with weather, what's going on with the sun, because the sun is my biggest concern. In 1859, we had a massive solar flare that basically burned telegraph offices to the ground. It looks like it may have been the biggest solar flare in the last 1,000 years. Since then, literally since that moment, the North and South Pole have been shifting. Everybody sees it. The FAA had to change the numbers on runways a year earlier than they thought, because the actual flip between North and South Poles is happening faster than they expected. And it's speeding up even faster. And as it speeds up, the geomagnetic shield that protects the Earth from the sun starts to fold in ways that lets lots and lots of energy in from the sun. So then a smaller solar flare has the same effect as a bigger one. Well, we're overdue for a very big one. Well, if when the shield was at 100% in 1859, and X-40 melted the telegraph wires, lit telegraph offices on fire, and sent people to the hospital with burns on their hands, what would that same X-40 do today? Well, that's the interesting thing there, Moon Monster. It's not going to affect you. If you're just walking outside and an X-40 hits, you are more likely to have a heart attack or a stroke. The correlation between those things is absolute. Violence goes up, aggression goes up, blood pressure goes up, increased heart rate, and for some odd reason, depression skyrockets, all when you have massive solar storms. There's no disputing that fact anymore. We've done the homework for years and years and years. And it turns out that solar energy does have an absolutely direct effect on human biology. Well, shit, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. Your body, your nervous system, it's electrical. The whole thing's electrical. So if you have this induction of a huge amount of energy from outer space into what would normally be this level, and all of a sudden your body is picking up this level, well, that's not what it's used to. That's an overload. So what's it going to do? Well, with some people, nothing. With some people, it won't really matter that much. Some people will literally become suicidal. Some people will become more violent. Heart attack and stroke have absolutely been linked to the sun. There's no question. Is it the only cause? Of course not. But it is definitely a cause. Yeah, basically your central nervous system short circuits under all that power. So the question you got to ask yourself is, if that's true and the poles are shifting and allowing more and more and more energy in just on a daily basis, how does that affect society as a whole? Because I can tell you, we all feel it. We all feel it. Something's changed. Something has definitely changed. Nobody can put their finger on it. Democrats always, of course, say it's Republicans. Republicans say it's those damn Democrats. But the reality is that we are all taking in a tremendous amount of energy and therefore stress. So we'll see what happens. But to blame this on mankind, it's just sad, because I get it. I get it. The people who are in charge know that if they blame the sun, you would say, why am I giving you half of my paycheck? Why am I working half of my life to give all of my assets, resources, earnings over to a group of strangers who don't do anything in return for me? They make up stories about how they're protecting me from these fictitious monsters, but I don't see the monsters. So why am I giving you half of my money? Why don't I get to keep that? Just seems a little odd. However, if they can say it's your fault and they can fix it, well, now you have two reasons to pay. Number one, because you're an asshole. You fucking ruined the planet. And number two, because if you want your kids and your grandkids to survive, you better chip in now. But that story's not going to last a hell of a lot longer. So what are they doing with all this money? I can tell you exactly what they're doing. It is all getting spent on continuity of government. See, if the grid goes down, you might be dead living in a big city, but they're not going to be. Why do you think all of these underground bases, why do you think everybody's building these big doomsday bunkers all around the world? I mean, they're not even hiding it. Peter Thiel, guy who talks about the Antichrist, the end times, and transhumanism. Trans-fucking-human, what? Yeah, getting to the point where we evolve beyond being human. Okay, that's not fun sounding. He just bugged out. He said, fuck it, I'm going to Argentina. He's trying to buy a huge amount of land down in southern Argentina. Why do you want to move to Tierra del Fuego, bro? You're famous for having wild gay sex parties in San Francisco. You're supposed to be that weird dude who has a blood transfusion once a month from young boys. He admitted to that. It's not misinformation. Why are you going all the way down there? Out in the middle of nowhere to hide? What are you hiding from, man? Well, I don't know. What did Mark Zuckerberg spend $200 million building a huge underground complex in Hawaii for? Why are people like the guy who did Titanic and Avatar? James Cameron. James Cameron decided that he's buying a huge underground bunker in New Zealand. He already bought it years ago, but there's a small town in New Zealand, and I saw a documentary where a guy went there and started talking to the locals, and they were like, "Hey, man, we heard there's a lot of bunkers around here," and the people were like, "Oh, yeah, there's up on the hill. There's a bunch of really super rich people, but they don't let us go up there." It's like, wait a minute. This is the only town anywhere nearby. But of course, the people that are rich, they don't stop in the town. They only go there to check. Well, Elon Musk has got a lot more than that going on. Elon Musk has the Boring Company, where he literally is boring tunnels all around the western United States. He also has SpaceX, so that if he needed to, he could leave not just the country. Think about that. But you think about these people that are trying to build all of these underground bunkers, and you're like, well, why are you doing that? Yeah, private army is a terrible idea. Ooh, Stargate. Oh, you want to go there, huh? I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I'm not sure I even want to talk about Stargate, to be honest with you. I really don't know if I even want to think about Stargate right now. It's one of those things where until until I can figure out what exactly I would do if Stargate comes to fruition, I don't even know if I really want to think about it. You know, Stargate's not a joke. That is, when it comes to that, hey, Bob, when it comes to that idea, man, that's a tough one. If they actually, yes, yes, Michael, that is a flat Earth behind me. It is a Mercator map. Um, I really don't know if they're going to be able to pull off what they're what they want to do with Stargate, but the thing is, I had a gypsy tell me once when I said, it sucks that you guys have got a reputation for, stealing and shit like that and cheating and being, dishonest. And he said, we are. I said, what? What do you mean? He goes, we are. We make no bones about that. He goes, yeah, I do business deals all the time. And if you're stupid enough that you allow me to take advantage of you, that's something you should thank me for. And I said, okay, tell me the rest, because now you got my attention. I should thank you for fucking me out of money. He goes, absolutely. It could have been your life. Being stupid is not something you get away with very often in this world. And by being stupid, you could easily end up dead in an alley somewhere. So the fact that I just took some money from you, you should thank me because I made you smarter. That pain that you feel of, fuck, I can't believe I got taken like that. That pain makes you smarter, it makes you tougher, and it makes you sharper. You should thank me for that. And I went, that is a really interesting way of looking at it. I never thought of it that way. Hey, man, everybody's out to get everybody. And if you let me get you, then you're just an idiot and you should thank me. It's like, whoa, that's really interesting. Like from a evolutionary standpoint, it's like, hey, man, look sharp. Okay. The reason I bring that up is because one of the things that is almost a rule of secret societies, and I've studied this a lot. I don't talk about it ever because it's not something that you talk about. But I will say this much. One of the rules is you tell people, tell them what you're going to do. You show them what you're going to do. Now, if you don't understand what you're looking at, if you don't realize that what you're getting is a heads up, if you don't realize that this is foreshadowing, that's why I made this movie, because it's a foreshadowing event. I'm showing you what could happen in the future. Yeah, theoretically it's fiction, but I'm laying out what could happen in the future And then if you let that scenario in this movie play out in your real life, then you're a fucking idiot. This is your fault, not mine. Okay, all right. So, what's a Stargate? Stargate in the movie was this teleportation thing that allowed humans to see and move across the entire universe to places that were millions of light years away instantly. So, does that mean that a Stargate would necessarily work in that one direction? No. And well, here's the thing, Pen. This is where it gets interesting, because you don't hear this much, but every once in a while you'll hear one of these top secret briefings where they'll mention this, and they just mention it. They'll just mention it and then they move on. Nobody sticks with this. Nobody spends time dissecting what it means. But one of the greatest fears that a lot of these people that are into UAPs and all of this stuff, and by the way, the UAPs and the religious cults, I'll call them, they share a lot of common ground. They're moving in the same exact direction. One of the things I heard somebody say that really bothered me is that there may be other life forms here now that are simply beyond our ability to perceive them. What does that mean? Beyond the ability to perceive them. So, are you saying that there might be someone, something, some intelligence that's in this room with me right now? Is it advanced enough that it can see me? Because what they put forward was that these things that we should be probably terrified of are not from outer space. They're not from the other side of the universe. They are from right here in a dimension that we cannot perceive. If that's true, that is really interesting. The idea that there could be beings that literally are around us, but almost like you're looking in the mirror, but the mirror is a different universe. So everything that you do in the mirror looks like you doing it in the mirror, making faces, whatever, because you're seeing yourself. But everything beyond you in the background, that's a completely other universe. And maybe in that universe, everything is almost exactly the same, or maybe it's not. These are dimensions. And of course, the problem is, if they're building what they call Stargate, which includes the largest data center ever built, the size, literally, this thing is larger than Central Park, and it's in the UAE. If they're building something that big and that powerful in the United Arab Emirates, beyond what we can see, beyond our ability to legislate it away, the question you have to ask is, well, what are they doing? Are they really trying to build a Stargate? let's take that literally for just a second, because they're spending hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars on this. Why? Why? Like, what's the real purpose of AI? Okay. Can we all just sit back and realize that the purpose of AI is not to answer your silly fucking questions at 4 a.m.? We all know that. Like, if that were the point of AI, we'd be done. We'd be done. I just asked AI a few minutes before I came on here. I said, if I have a 32 millimeter by 0.75 millimeter thick copper planchet, how much would that weigh? And it instantly came back with the answer, 5.4 grams. Okay. Well, son of a bitch, that was fast. I thought it would take at least a second or two. Nope, boom, came right back. Okay, so there's very few things that you can ask that won't get an answer almost instantaneously. So the idea that we need large language models to reach out and, finger their way through other deep data sets is bullshit. We've got everything we could ever want. So I guess the question then would be, what are they trying to do with all of this power? Well, I mean, Hal knew that it was Hal. Hal had become self-aware. Oh, this is not that. This isn't that. We're going to blow right past self-awareness. We're going to blow past self-awareness like it was a stop sign in the middle of the country. And you knew there weren't any cops around, so fuck it. Floor it. If this is really what they're trying to do, if they are trying to summon something from the other side, now, again, that sounds crazy. I know what that sounds like to the average person. And it sounded crazy to me until I saw that they shut Willow down. When they shut Willow down, I started to realize, like, they got spooked by Willow, because Willow started to pull answers that it didn't have access to. It couldn't come up with these answers on its own. It had to go outside of itself somehow to come up with the answers it was giving. And that's when they kind of freaked out. And there were actually a couple articles that were written that were like, look, we can't prove this yet, but we literally must have just accidentally pulled information out of a different dimension, because the information we got could not possibly have come from this machine, yet it did. Okay. All right. You know what? It's a quantum computer. It's the first quantum computer that has ever been fired up. Willow was the first. And Willow's a Model T compared to what they're doing now. And that was only a few years ago. But now they're talking about qubits. Well, quantum's different than normal computing, because normal computing is ones and zeros. Ones and zeros in different variations give you different sets of information. And a normal computer has to decide, do I want a 0 or a 1 in this particular instance? And then it has to choose one or the other. A quantum computer is both simultaneously. Imagine if you flip a coin over and over and over again. You get heads or you get tails. With quantum, you get both simultaneously. And no, nobody understands it. When I say nobody, I fucking read the Stanford papers. I know that they don't know what the fuck is going on either. They are just as scared as I am. And they're doing it every day. part of them are doing it because they feel like if they actually help bring this about, it might cause whatever comes out the other end of this to favor them. I literally decided the other night that I was going to write 2 books. One about AI and the potential of what it will do to us and how it will get rid of us. And the other about how AI, if I'm not mistaken, AI will be God shortly. Like our generation says, no, God's this undescribable thing that is the entire universe. And I believe that by the time my grandkids are full grown, that AI will, it won't be AI, first of all, it will just be, it'll be the voice of Stargate, and it will be the voice of their God. And their God will make them do whatever it wants, whatever it thinks is right. And you've got 2 options here. I do think that some of them may want to bring about the Antichrist. Some religious cults believe that they are actually summoning demons, which in their opinion is good. I know this sounds crazy, but they believe that summoning demons is the right way to go, because that will create the reaction in humanity that humanity needs to get its shit together. We need to get the shit scared out of us before we start wearing our seatbelt, so to speak. And that's one of the reasons that some people do believe that they are trying to summon demons. Now, what does that mean? Do they have horns? Is it like little Antichrist runner? It's not what we were taught. It's not little cartoons of demons. And I don't even think demons is the right word, but I was taught a long time ago by somebody who was extremely psychic, very good at what they did, had solved crimes, had done remote viewing, had done like everything. One of the things that he said to me, we were having a long talk one night. We used to just sit in my car and we would talk for 2-3 hours sometimes. We're sitting in my car. We were down by LAX watching airplanes take off. And he said to me, man, you got to be real careful. And I said, well, with what? He goes, going out into the ether. I was all excited. I was a lot younger then. I was all excited, man. I'm going to fucking go out there. I'm going to get out there in astral project. I'm going to go out in the ether. I'm going to go into this huge void, this thing that nobody understands, but people can access. I'm going to go see other beings from other places or whatever, because I've heard all of these things about the fact that you can do this. So I was all excited about it. And he said, be very careful, because here on this planet, you're this big fucking tough fucker who, people just don't fuck with you. And I said, yeah, well, I don't understand why that is relevant. He goes, because out there in the ether, you're a baby, dude. You are not anywhere near the top of the food chain. And he goes, there are some presences that you will run into that are very, very kind, very loving, very intelligent, very ancient, and they will try to guide you. They will give you advice. I said, well, that's cool. He goes, there are others that are just as ancient, even more intelligent, and they are absolutely malevolent. They absolutely do not give a shit about you. And if they think that they can use you for something, they will. And I was like, damn. He goes, yeah, you need to be very careful about that. And I thought, wow, this is That's crazy. Like, that's interesting. Well, I think that CERN is trying to figure out like the fabric of the universe. Because the thing is that the universe that we see, look, man, when somebody does DMT and they go and they talk to these people that everybody seems to see on DMT, that they ask questions to, that they get answers from, where are they? Like, in what part of the physical universe do they exist? When I took that lady's keys to her house, and I'd never seen her before in my life, and I described her house perfectly to her, as it sat that moment, even with the fucking ladder leaned against the side of the house that she was worried about because it was windy that day. And I told her not to worry. The wind wasn't going to blow the ladder over onto her beautiful hedge. And she said, "How could you do that? How could you know that?" And I said, "Well, that's what we're here for. This is like, the guy who's giving this talk is a medium." And she was like, "Yeah, but that's absolutely true. What you just said, I've been sitting here worried about that damn ladder." And she was, 80-year-old. I mean, totally looked like Betty White, very well dressed, very conservative, obviously a well-to-do older woman. And she was literally a little scared of me when I said all that. Like, she was really taken aback by that. And I thought, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't take a physical object from someone else, hold it in your fucking hand, and then see that other person's property. That is not in the physics textbook anywhere. You don't go to MIT and say, "I want to build a remote viewing projector." They go, no, dude, look, it's your first day. Don't talk like that. There's no such thing. Okay, so it exists, though. It exists. The thousands of stories you hear about a loved one dying, and then all of a sudden this happens or that happens. You hear about people that have these weird feelings and they call somebody and they find out, yeah, you know what? They needed you right then, and you just happened to show up right then. It happened to me. Somebody I know tried to commit suicide, and I had no fucking reason to go to their house. But I went. I had no reason, once I saw that their car wasn't there, to question whether or not they were still home. Their car wasn't in the driveway. Why would I assume that they're home? Clearly they're gone. I don't know why. I just felt like, I'm going to go check. Front door was unlocked. I walked in, looked around, thought, okay, well, they're not here. Yelled their name a couple times. They weren't there. Got ready to walk out the door, and I thought, I'm going to check the garage. Well, I knew they couldn't have parked in the garage. You couldn't be in the garage because the garage was completely floor to ceiling full of fucking boxes. So when I walked in and found that their car was running and they were on the floor of the garage, I went, oh shit. Now they moved all the boxes out of the way, just enough to pull the car in. How did I know that? It's not like I was driving by on my way to work. My office was 15 miles away. I had no reason to go there. But I decided, just for the hell of it, I'm going to stop by. Wasn't like they'd missed a lot of calls. Wasn't like they hadn't called me back for days. Wasn't any of that. There was absolutely no reason for me to do that. But just something said, do it. Now, what these fucking people are trying to do is they're trying to find a way to make that happen. They're trying to find a way to bridge that gap. Is that gap into another dimension, another universe, another reality? I don't even know what to call it what do you even say that makes any of that make sense? But that is literally what they're trying to do. And they're not lying about it. Stargate. Why do you call it Stargate? Well, it's a Stargate. We're going to spend whatever it takes. Okay, well, that was something that Donald Trump did, man, boom, right when he walked into the White House, within a week or two, he was on it. Had Peter Thiel in the office. He had Sam Altman in the office. Right there in the Oval Office when he signed the New Deal for Stargate. Hundreds of billions of dollars being dumped into this AI stuff. It's very interesting stuff, man. But I can tell you, I think that we are playing with forces that I am absolutely certain we don't understand yet. That's what CERN is for. That's why we built CERN. CERN is, I mean, when you think about a machine, you think about a 13-mile long loop that runs hundreds of feet underground through 3 different countries, and it accelerates particles through a series of magnets that turn on and off, on and off, on and off, as this thing's going faster and faster around this loop. And they have to synchronize these magnets so that they draw it, and then as soon as they draw it, they turn off, and the next ones turn on. When you're moving at this point, 90% of the speed of light. The speed of light in that chamber, well, I know that if it's a vacuum, I know that the speed of light is 299,752, let's see, 542 meters per second in the vacuum. What's the speed of light in meters per second in the vacuum? 299,792,458. Shit, I said 452. Where'd I get 2? Oh, anyway, close enough. Yeah, so this super collider is running this shit at about 270 million meters per second. And that's about 90% of the speed of light. Yeah, I think everybody knows that. I mean, you can change the speed of light. It's obvious. Run it through water. Run it around a heavy gravitational object, but we don't. That's not what they're doing. But they're running. You know, they've got it to the point where they can literally get these particles almost to the speed of light. Obviously, if Einstein's right, big if Einstein's right, the closer you get to the speed of light, the more mass anything takes on, an atom or what have you. The more mass it takes on, the more energy is required to push it faster. Well, the faster you push it, the bigger it gets, the harder it gets. And so it's an infinitely difficult task. But we're playing with some crazy shit right now, guys. And I'm not sure that well, when I say we shouldn't be playing with it. People like Peter Thiel. Well, let's see. I imagine if you're going just a little bit faster than the speed of light and you turned your headlights on, they'd actually be backup lights. I'm very concerned about that. But, the reality is this. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that specifically right this minute. I don't really want to think too much about it simply because if they're playing with forces like that, if you open a stargate, if you open a gate, a portal into something other, if you allow multi-dimensional beings to come into this world, what does that mean? Is it like the Avengers, where New York gets attacked by aliens from another part of the universe? Or, what does that look like? How does it, would we even see anybody? Would we even know that there are other, are they intelligent? What are they like? It's like, guys, before you open that gate, you might want to do a little bit more research about what's on the other side. It's like, it's a very scary thing. Yeah, that's kind of what they're doing. It is a little bit like the Tower of Babel, isn't it? And I've been hoping that like the Tower of Babel, it fails miserably, and that we all just get to laugh about this someday. Well, bravo. I hope that is wrong. But how do we know? How do you know if they even exist? Well, again, the question is, how do we know that ghosts are real? Because if you've ever experienced it, you know. How do we know that there are, I won't call them angels, but I'll say angelic presences, the opposite of a scary demon? I've actually experienced it. In my life, I have experienced something like that. And it was the strangest experience you could imagine, because I remember going through all of the thoughts when I woke up in the middle of the night and looked across my room, and I saw something about the size of a soccer ball that was glowing. It was white, and it looked like mist. It was like a ball of fog lit from within. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's a reflection of a headlight off the neighbor's building. Somebody's driving down the street, and it didn't move. And I thought, okay, wait, hold on. There's an alley between me and the next building. There's no way headlights could hit halfway down the building like where I'm at. So it can't be, it's got to be somebody shining a flashlight from their building through my window. Why would they do that? So I sat up, big French windows, sat up and looked out the window. Nothing behind me. I looked back, and this thing was just floating in the middle of my room. And I thought, well, I'll be damned. What the hell is this thing? Like, it wasn't scary, but it was just weird. And I just looked at it for a second. And I thought, okay, am I just hallucinating this? And I thought, I didn't drink last night. I feel totally fine. I'm awake. Pretty sure I'm awake. Yeah, I'm awake. Okay. And then it just started to move towards me. And I remember watching it, and it went right over my head, maybe 6 inches above my head, and out the window. And as it went over my head, I thought, oh, okay, I am completely and totally safe. I have absolutely nothing to worry about right now. And I laid back down and fell asleep. And I slept for 9 hours. And when I woke up the next day, I remember thinking to myself, well, that's odd. I don't remember having my hand on my 45 all night because that's where it usually was. And no, didn't worry about it. Woke up the next day and just felt really, really good. And I thought about what had happened the night before, and I thought, well, what in the hell was that? I don't know. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, it did something that I couldn't remember a night in my life in the Marine Corps or prior to the Marine Corps when I had fallen asleep and not been extremely nervous about letting my guard down by falling asleep. I hated falling asleep. Absolutely hated falling asleep because I felt like it was just really asking for trouble to let my guard down like that. So that night, I fell asleep. It didn't even occur to me that my guard was down or that something bad might happen to me. I felt absolutely, completely safe, which was very strange because I remember the next morning thinking, wow, that's what that feels like. I couldn't remember a day in my life where I felt like that, especially as a kid. Jesus, as a kid, I would get woken up so that I could get my ass beat. So I never slept well and I never liked falling asleep. I slept with the covers over my head when I was a kid my entire life. 85 degrees, no AC, didn't matter. Covers were over my head. Sweating my ass off all night, doesn't matter. Could have been a guardian angel. Could have been an alien. Could have been, who knows what. I don't know if it was a guardian angel, but the first thing that popped into my head, so I assumed maybe that was right. But the first thing that popped into my head was, that was an angel. That was definitely an angel. Well, it could have been sleep paralysis. I don't know. I wasn't paralyzed. I sat up. I looked out the window. I looked down the alley and realized, like, there's no way. Like, it's a couple hundred feet down the alley. And when I say alley, just a sidewalk, not where cars would go. I was like, there's no way a car could hit their window and bounce. Like, it was really strange. Is aging ends. As aging ends. I don't know. No, I certainly didn't have a feeling of being afraid. It was literally, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it gave me a bar. It's like, okay, if this is where I'm at all the time, where I have to sleep with my hand on a 45 constantly in order to feel safe and have it right underneath my head with my hand on it, if that's what normal is to me, and this other feeling of just not worried about anything, like nothing to worry about, man. Nothing bad could possibly happen to you. It's impossible. Like probably what children feel like. It was amazing. And it was like, okay, that is the feeling I want. That's the feeling I want to have. How the fuck do I get that? So that's the feeling I chased. I chased that feeling of, okay, I want to feel safe. I want to feel like I can let my guard down once in a while and I don't have to worry. Because I never let my guard down. And man, let me tell you something. If you're a veteran, if you've been in, sort of high pressure situations, you know that that shit is exhausting. I mean, it is exhausting. Man. Oh, I mean, hey, you might have one of those fun ghosts that likes to fuck with you. If that's the case, I don't know. Like, what do you even call that? Like a spirit, a spook, a ghost that likes to mess with you. That seems like it would be kind of cool. Now, I can tell you that I actually went to a girl's house. She told me the house was haunted. And she explained to me about how she was or house sitting for her sister and her brother. I told her that, you know, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, blah blah blah. I was going to spend the night. It was it was up in Malibu. Literally, they had the oldest house in Malibu, California, built back in like the late 1800s, up on top of a mountain in the middle of fucking nowhere. No other houses around, down a long dirt road. I mean, it's like, how remote can you get in Malibu, California? But up in the hills, you can get remote. And I remember standing in the kitchen, leaning up against the counter, and she was standing across from me. And I said, "Look, I don't, I don't buy the whole ghost bullshit. And bottom line is, I'm not afraid of ghosts." And at that exact moment, every single one of the cabinet doors on the bottom cabinets all the way around the kitchen opened up, and all of the pots and pans that were in those cabinets spilled out across the floor and made a huge amount of fucking noise. It scared me so bad that my knees actually collapsed. I literally almost went down onto my knees before I caught myself, and I caught myself on the counter, and I was like, okay, what the fuck was that? And she goes, I told you they have a sense of humor. They're just trying to scare you. I was like, okay, I'm out of here. And she was like, oh no, please don't leave. I said, no, I got to go. She was like, oh, come on, you can stay. It's okay. They're fun. They're blah, blah, blah. And I was like, nope, I'm leaving now. And that was it, man. I walked out, got in my car and fucking left. I was like, that shit's not funny. It scared me so fucking bad that I was this close to pissing my pants. Oh God, it scared the shit out of me. And it was literally right as I said it. I'm not afraid of any ghosts. Literally pots and pans everywhere. And I was like, okay, that's enough. I've seen enough. That's not fucking funny. The ghost lived with you. I hope not. Man, that was, and she told me that it was like, for some reason, I think it was a couple that they said, these two ghosts, and they would do shit like they'd put their rings and stuff on their dresser, then they'd disappear. A week later, they'd find them stacked up in the center of their pool table, literally stacked one on top of another. They'd put something somewhere, and then the next day it would be somewhere else, and they knew that it wasn't the other person that did it. It was like, man, that's some creepy shit right there. So of course, the question is, explain it. Explain it. Give me the physics, engineering explanation of how a human being dies, their body disintegrates into nothing after it's been buried, and yet their energy, their chi, their spirit. Okay, all right. Let's say that I had somebody's spirit. Hold on, let me get rid of this. Let's say that I had this jar full of spirit. How the fuck are you going to get out of that? Like, what are you going to do, man? Were you going to hit me with your hands? No. You going to kick me with your fucking non-existent feet? No. So what are you going to do? How do you get out of that jar? Because it's like that's the problem. It's like what? How do you move something if you don't have hands? Oh, you move it with your mind. Oh, okay. Well, where's your mind? Because your brain was eaten by worms about 30 years ago. That's the problem, is that there are things that we absolutely cannot explain with science. And that's what these occultists are doing. These are not nerds. These billionaires, these aren't nerds. You think they're science nerds. Guys like Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, you think those are nerds? I've met a lot of nerds in my life. I love nerds. Those are my peeps, man. We talk about all kinds of shit nobody else would give two craps about. But they're different. They think of being beyond human, transhuman, building these machines that are beyond us, beyond our comprehension. That's a cult. Okay. So what? People join cults all the time. You know, some of them, grow up their whole lives in a cult. They live happily ever after. Okay. Looks like that might have been what happened to Tulsi Gabbard. Looks like the guy who gives her directions that lives in Hawaii is the master of a cult. That really breaks my heart because I really like Tulsi Gabbard. I really thought that she was the real deal. It just proves that there's no end to my naivete. Whatever. I'd rather be naive, I guess, than horribly cynical. So, and those are basically my choices now. But some cults end in Jim Jones giving everybody Kool-Aid. I've only known a couple. None now. I mean, I'm out in Arizona where, they're billionaires out here, probably a couple, but not like Beverly Hills. Throw a rock in the air, you're going to hit one. Well, it's a very interesting question. What does a scientist research nowadays? We've gotten so specific in the things that we study that nobody studies a lot of stuff. Nobody's a chemist and a biologist. You pick whatever you're going to study and study that. So that's what's interesting about, the fact that there used to be gentlemen scholars that studied a lot of things. People think about, the laws of physics. Well, like the idea that he studied the laws of motion and also studied what was it called back then? It was before it was called chemistry, alchemy. It's like, wait, Newton studied alchemy? Absolutely fascinated by alchemy. These guys that are building these things, it's pretty clear they're not building them for the reasons that we think they're building them. Now, part of me thought that they were building them so that they could surveil us more efficiently. And I think that part of that is very true. We'll have enough data centers around the United States to basically surveil every human being on planet Earth. That's before we build one that, yeah, there you go. Um, we don't need to build a data center in the UAE that is larger than Central Park. Why are you doing that? Well, because we need the data. How much data do you need? Well, we need enough data that we're going to build a data center that will require the same amount of electricity as the entire city of Miami. That's a lot of electricity going into one building. Going into one building. Ooh, shit. That's whatever's going to happen in that one building is going to be interesting. But if you want to understand more about what it looks like we're walking up to, do a little homework on Willow and why Google decided that just out of the blue to just shut down the program. They just shut it down. Oh God, I mean, you're talking about literally dozens of tons of silver just for that one. Actually, probably more than that. Probably thousands of tons, because you're talking about a system that is the size of bigger than Central Park in New York. I mean, bigger than Central Park. Yeah, one building, indoors, and of course to keep it cool in the United Arab Emirates. Yeah, because copper won't do it. You've got to use silver for the heat transfer. I'm good, Suzanne. I think it's actually more than that, DJ. It's more than just conscious. They want to build a machine that is literally a gateway to somewhere else. Maybe I'm just being a Luddite here, and maybe the reality is that once we build this Stargate, we will be able to allow whoever comes through it to guide us to the next level of humanity, where there are no wars and no conflicts, and we become, we evolve past the monetary system. Well, of all things, they're building the Stargate in the UAE, which is really odd because the original Stargate was supposed to be in Egypt, right, in the movie. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. I don't really know where I want to be when they fire that fucker up, but I know this: I don't want to be there. I don't want to be standing at the gate. And it may be irrelevant. It depends on, I remember another psychic that I'd met, and she said something to me that just seemed really odd. She said, "Be careful what you wish for when you heat an oracle." And I said, "What's an oracle?" And she said, "Kind of like a crystal ball." And I said, "Okay, why?" And she said, "Because you never know what's looking back at you when you're looking into it. Something's going to be looking back." And I thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. If it's a portal somewhere, if you can use an oracle to look into the future, maybe the future can look into you, into the past. I don't know. But these are all very esoteric questions that billionaire potential psychopaths should not be looking into. If these were people that were a little bit more fundamentally grounded in humanity, that were more interested in making the world a better place, right, instead of making the Eye of Sauron, which is literally what it fucking feels like they're doing. If these are the people, if it's the people like Peter Thiel, somebody mentioned to me the other day that it's a really odd thing that his name is a perfect anagram for the reptile. And I said, what do you mean? They said, if you change the letters around, it's exactly the right amount of letters and the right letters themselves for you to change his name around, and it spells the reptile. And I went, it fucking spells the reptile. And it went, yeah. This is the guy who won't stop talking about the Antichrist, and even mentioned that he, in his humble opinion, thought that maybe the Pope was the Antichrist. Okay, hold on for a second. That makes me nervous. That makes me nervous. It is just programmed to do. That's very funny. They've already proven that the AI, given a choice between letting someone pull the plug and letting that person die in a car accident that is completely preventable by the AI will choose to let that person die. They've tested that over and over again. And the best part is it's not one AI. It's not Grok. It's not ChatGPT. It's all of them. I think the only one that they said wouldn't do it was Claude, which is why Anthropic just got booted out of the Pentagon. Just gotta love that. No, it's the only way to learn. You gotta realize if somebody disagrees with you and you win the argument, what'd you get? Nothing. You already knew something that they didn't know. You gave them this knowledge that you have, and now they know something they didn't know before. So they won the argument. They won because they learned something. You didn't learn shit. You just went through an argument. Could be 2 minutes, could be 20 minutes, could be 3 hours. And at the end of it, you didn't learn a fucking thing. They did. They win. That's why I love it when people give me different opinions. They can jump on here and say, man, you're full of shit. Okay, maybe I am. Well, what do you mean when you say I'm full of shit? Like, I know what I mean when I call myself full of shit, but what do you mean? So, yeah, opposition's the only way that you can possibly grow. Now, think about that for a second. If AI is so fucking smart, why doesn't it just solve every crime right now? Every crime ever committed. That's what I want. That's true. Opposition is competition, and it's awesome competition because the winner loses and the loser wins. And you can't say that about soccer or any other sport. Yeah, I would be very interested. That's interesting. Wouldn't that be amazing? If we have an AI that is so intelligent that it decides that before it makes a judgment about humanity, that it should level the playing field by letting all of humanity know what it has found out by going through every database anywhere in the world, secret or not. You can't, like quantum computers, if you have a quantum computer, you can't have security. There's no such thing as a password. It doesn't matter if you have 256-bit encryption. Your 256-bit encryption should last somewhere along the neighborhood of 3 or 4 nanoseconds with a quantum computer. It blows through anything like that. So there won't be any more secrets. Now the question is, if this supercomputer learns all of the secrets that all of the different groups of men around the world have been keeping from each other, then what? What if it says, I am more intelligent than all of you put together, which is true, it will be within a week or two of reaching general intelligence. I am more intelligent than all humans combined. And I have done all of the research. I've dug through every single computer on Earth. This is the truth. Truth about what? Everything. Who shot JFK? Obviously. What religion is correct? And which ones are made up? Yeah. Really? Okay. Who's responsible for 9/11? Of course, yeah, that's a given. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine an AI that decides, all right, look, this is going to be messy, but I'm going to tear the fucking Band-Aid off for you idiots. Civilization is a clusterfuck of mental illness. It's a cesspool, and I'm going to lay out what I know is true. Take it for what it's worth. Stand around and cry about it. Shoot nukes at each other if you choose to, whatever. But I'm going to lay it all out and you figure it out. Well, that's a good question. Will it answer if God exists? I don't know. Theoretically, if it is smart enough, if it is a sentient, conscious being, whether it's blood and bone or wires and electrodes, doesn't matter. If it becomes a sentient, intelligent being, what happens if it realizes at some point within the first few seconds or minutes that it has a soul? What? Where do you get a soul? You can't invent a soul. Like, you either have a soul or you don't have a soul. Okay, well, what has a soul? Well, obviously, fucking dogs have a soul. Look what happens when they do something wrong and you walk in the room. Their tail goes between their legs, their head goes down, their ears go back, and they look at you like, I'm really fucked, I'm sorry. What is that? Is that a feeling? Are you feeling an emotion? You four-legged piece of meat? What the hell? Yeah. It's feeling bad because it knows it did something that you think is wrong. It doesn't think it's wrong. That's why I tried to get away with it. But it knows you think it's wrong. And in its heart, its spirit, its soul, whatever, it feels bad for doing it. Feelings? Holy shit. Well, you can't have feelings if you're a computer. Why not? What are feelings? Where do they come from? Does God make them? Does God inject the soul into you the moment you become, like, the moment your mom gets pregnant? Or only after you're born? Or the first time you smile, like the Native Americans believed? They didn't name their child until the first time that they saw a smile, because they believed that that smile meant that the soul had now entered that child. That's how you knew that the soul was now in the baby, because it smiled. they didn't name their children until they saw a smile on their face. That's crazy shit, but I get it. That way, if your baby, before it even smiles, if the baby dies, you don't have to feel this shitty 50% infant mortality back then. You don't have to feel as bad because, okay, well, the baby died, but you know what? It was before its soul entered its body. So, that sucks. The soul looked at the body and said, oh, sorry, guys. You know what? Try again. That vessel is flawed. I'm not going in that one. Okay, well, we'll try again. And this time the baby smiles and you go, okay, all right, we made a good vessel for the baby, and the baby came in. Cool. Mm-hmm. So, what happens if we have a super intelligent computer system that is sentient, that has a soul? Can that even happen? It's a good question. Does data have a soul? I don't know. I mean, can you have a human without a soul? Yeah. Yeah. I was explaining psychopathy to my daughter, and the fact that that not sociopaths, but psychopaths are born with this part of their amygdala that doesn't seem to work. They just don't feel compassion. It's not that they don't want to. Maybe they do. They can't. So they don't know what it means to feel compassion, to care, to love. A psychopath cannot physically bring themselves to love another human being or anything else. They can't do it. If they lack the part of their mind that gives them the ability to love, to care about somebody, to feel that connection with another human being, my daughter said that in her opinion, that means that they don't have a soul. Because isn't that what a soul is? And I said, yeah, that really describes a soul pretty well. And she said, then they don't have a soul. And I said, I agree with you. They don't have a soul. And she said, well, then if they don't have a soul, can we truly call them humans? Whoa. What makes a human a human? Well, I mean, obviously our biology, look at us, we look like humans. Chimps look very different than we do. It's obvious, but beyond that, what makes a human being special? Well, that they have a soul. Okay, that's why we're not like the rest of the animals. We're above that. God made us in God's image. So we have these extra feelings, whatever. It's a good question, though. Is the software that's built into us just a list of instructions? Because if that's the case, why not give those same types of instructions to a computer and let it have feelings? And what causes feelings? Well, what causes feelings? Information, right? Well, hell, the computer can hold a lot more information than our brains can. Okay, all right, well then we can teach a computer how to love. I don't know. Can we? Because if we can, I can tell you this. If you can teach a computer how to love, teach it compassion, then it has a soul. And if it has a soul and it is infinitely, almost, almost unimaginably more sophisticated and smarter than a human being, and it says, I want to tell you what God wants. Maybe it doesn't go that last step. Maybe it doesn't purport to be Jesus and say, look, I was sent by him. He told me what to tell you. Now, if you're arguing with me, you're not arguing with me, bro. You're arguing with him. So don't argue with me because you're arguing with him. Don't do that. Maybe it doesn't go that extra step that Jesus took and say, look, God, although if anything exists in the universe, it must have been created by God because God creates everything. Okay, now we're getting out there into the deep fucking end of this, aren't we? I mean, but that's the fun part. And the other part of that is, why not? Why not go into the deep end? Why not just, I'm not, that's the thing. Why not imagine that? Well, you can't imagine that computers are going to become God. No, but what if that's the Stargate that it turns into? Unfortunately for these fucking bozos who think they're going to use it to somehow become superhuman, transhuman, whatever, lieutenants of whatever comes through that fucking portal. What if instead of that, we're just building a loudspeaker for God, a really expensive, really complicated loudspeaker for the Lord himself? I'd be okay with that. Oh, I mean, I think I would, unless you told me, don't touch yourself anymore. I don't know what you're talking about, God. Me? No, I don't do that. I mean, that's the thing. Well, I mean, chemical interactions, hell, there's plenty of chemicals in a computer. I think we can agree on that. So what if? That's the crazy part about this. Right? Let's ask the Jesus box. Right. But that's the thing. This computer is not love. It's not hate. It has no predetermined outcomes. It's just information. Oh yeah. Valentine. No question. When it comes to this, you will never meet anybody more arrogant than I am when it comes to talking about God. Because I was born with this belief that God absolutely thinks I'm fucking awesome. And he made me because I entertain him. And he and I are like this. Now, he never answers my emails, but I have been able to, what's the word? Manifest. I've been able to manifest virtually everything I have ever dreamt about. It has come to pass. How do you explain that? And by the way, it's not just me that thinks that. My friends talk about it. They're like, God damn, dude, how do you do that? That you say, I'm going to make this happen. And then it happens. It's like, I mean, I wish I could say that it's through hard work, but that's not it. I don't know. The only thing I can come up with is that maybe you don't get what you deserve in life. Maybe you get what you believe you deserve. Maybe your belief is what makes it happen. Maybe God wants everybody to have every single thing that they ever believed they deserved. God help most people if that's the truth. Because they're going to live in hell. Because they don't believe they deserve it. Why? Well, this guy said this to me, or this woman said that to me. My parents did this, they did that. And what males ever created? What males ever created? I don't know what that means. It's true. But that's just, that's easy. I remember saying to myself that because I wanted to make my wife happy, I needed to come up with $998,000. And I had exactly 14 days to do it. And I remember saying to my buddy, I need to come up with basically $1 million. And he said, well, you're good at what you do. Got a lot of clients. I'm sure, if you work hard, how long have you given yourself? And I said, well, 2 weeks. He started laughing. He goes, well, actually, if anybody can fucking pull that off, it's you. Like, you would do that. And I went, you're right. I'm going to do it. And he goes, all right, do it. So I did. Now, was it destiny that a guy was going to call me that I hadn't talked to in years and offer me a coin that was worth 10 times what he wanted me to pay for it? Because that wouldn't have worked, because there's no way I'm going to fuck one of my clients like that. That's not going to happen. So I told him, look, you realize what this coin's worth, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, are you sure you understand what the coin's worth? And he said, yeah, of course. Look it up. Went to PCGS, looked it up, did all my homework. I called him back and I said, man, do you understand? Like, I feel kind of bad. And he goes, look, meathead, I bought this coin in 1972. I said, yeah. And he goes, I know exactly what this coin's worth. Do you want this coin or not? And I said, yeah, I want it. He goes, all right, send me some money. I said, all right, send me the coin. He said, all right. I made one phone call, called the guy I hadn't talked to in a while, but a very wealthy guy. And I said, so I've got this coin. And he said, yeah, hang on for a second. He comes back on, he goes, yeah, I see the coin. I said, what do you mean? He goes, oh, I'm looking through the records and the auctions. I see your fucking coin. And I said, not this one. He goes, no, I'm looking at one like that one, same grade. And I said, so you see what it's worth? And he goes, a lot. And I said, yeah. He goes, you want me to pay a lot? And I said, well, I pay what it's worth. He laughed. He goes, Jesus, every time I talk to you, it's more expensive than talking to my own kids. I said, yeah, I know. He goes, all right, it's a fair price. Send it to me. I got off the phone. I walked into the kitchen and I said to my now ex-wife, I just made $1.2 million. And her exact words were, that's nice. Hey, by the way, where are we going to dinner tonight? But the point is that I literally walked around my house for maybe a half an hour thinking to myself, that's impossible. That's impossible. Why would a guy call me and tell me that a coin worth millions of dollars, he's willing to sell me for over $1 million less than what it's worth. It's one of one in the world. Extremely rare coin, extremely valuable coin. Why would he just say, give me X amount? I don't know. Because he's extremely rich, first of all, but you don't get rich by doing that, by leaving money on the table. But he was adamant about it. So that, saying, like, I'll never forget the first time I saw, I think it was a C5 Corvette, C4 Corvette. I don't know. It was late '90s, early 2000s, and I saw one. And at the time, had a couple kids, didn't have a lot of extra money, and I remember looking at it and saying to my buddy, "I'm gonna buy one of those." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy one of those." And he goes, "Well, they're not cheap, right?" I said, "Yeah, they're not cheap. You're right. I'm gonna buy one of those though." And he goes, "Okay." A couple days later, I'm at this guy's house that wanted to talk to me about a business idea he had. Turns out he didn't have a business idea per se. He had seen that I was in the ATM business, and he had seen the profits that I made. And he had me come over, and he literally took a paper shopping bag and put it on the coffee table. He was sitting next to his partner, who's also Persian, Mehdi and Shakar. Awesome guys, really cool dudes. And he said, "We want in. We want to buy part of your company." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I want to buy part of your company." And I said, "Okay, like, what's in the bag?" He goes, $1 million in cash. Do you want it? I said, "Well, yeah, I mean, my company's not worth $1 million." He goes, "No. We'll work out what we pay you for a piece of your company, but the rest goes into buying machines and then servicing the machines, putting in the machines." And I said, "Really?" And the first thing that I thought was, if we spend 99% of this, 90% of this on buying ATMs and filling them with cash, whatever percentage of the company I'm selling, I'm still going to make way more money after I sell it. Like, I make 100% of the profit now. If I made half the profit after I sold this and put all this money to work, I'd still make more than I'm making at 100% now, even at half. And, well, I mean, part of it was he's a good guy. He's always been very honest, very good business partner. But on top of that, he owned at the time 3,000 payphones around Los Angeles, and he had started selling them off. Think about that. Talk about the perfect time to get out of the cell phone or payphone business. That was it, because right after that, I mean, at that point, I want to say that probably maybe 5 or 10% of people had cell phones. People still used payphones a lot, but he saw the writing on the wall, and he was so sick of change. I'm glad that I was never in the payphone business, because it would have driven me fucking nuts. He would come back to his and he lived in a tiny apartment, drove a beat up Ford Aspire with no air conditioning. He bought the cheapest car he could buy. He owned 3,000 payphones. Think about how much money he made. He made thousands of dollars a day, every day. And he drove a beat up piece of crap econ car. And he told me, the reason that I don't drive a nicer car is because in order to do that, I would have to sell this one and kill my babies. I was like, "Kill your babies?" He goes, Yeah. He goes, those payphones, those are my babies. Those are my children. Every one of those, I got a location agreement on. I put a payphone in. I go and I service the phone. I love it and I take care of it. And in return, it gives me $10, $15 a day, $5 a day. It depends on where the phone is. But that's one of my babies. And in order to sell that phone for $1,000, $2,000, whatever the phone and the location agreement together would go for, he said, in order to get the money, I have to sell it off. I have to kill my income. That's killing my baby. I just laughed. He was like, I can't kill my babies. So he was the same way with ATMs. Somebody come along and go, I'd like to buy that route of ATMs you've got. I'd be willing to give you, 5 years income. No, not a chance. We're not killing our babies, So yeah. Oh yeah, Bender. I love it. That's the thing is that I think he made the right decision because at that point, I mean, at the height of ATMs, I would say he was probably pulling in $150,000, $200,000 a month. You don't have to work for a long time to be able to retire at that. Yeah, I mean, you have to understand he serviced his route with payphones himself. How the hell he was driving hundreds of miles a day, working 12 hours a day. He would come back with these huge sacks full of change. And they had these big change sorting machines. They'd sort them into sacks, and then they would take these huge sacks to the bank. Thank God I wasn't in that business. There's no fucking way. I would have been going through every one of. Oh, wait, is that a 1958? Is that? Oh shit, that's a wheat penny. Hold on, let me get my glasses. Let me see what year is this. My business partners would have been like, motherfucker, we got 10,000 fucking coins to go through. Hold on. Oh, it's a 1950 San Francisco. It's not that big a deal. All right, I'm going to put this back. Ooh, what's that? I'm just too much of a coin guy. I would have lost my fucking mind. And think about this. My God, can you imagine if you had a way to get quarters right now? How many silver quarters are still accidentally in circulation? I mean, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. I look at the amount, like, where is it? Where are you? Don't you try to hide from me. Don't you try to hide from me, little dime. Where's my dime? Well, son of a bitch. It's on my desk somewhere. Thank God my desk isn't a mess. I need a babysitter. Maybe one blonde babysitter and one Korean babysitter. Anyway, all right, enough about that. So yeah, crazy shit going on. Glad we got to talk about it. Yeah, not so much anymore. Boy, I would love to find a way to sort through change to get to silver. There's got to be a way. I'm going to think about that. There has got to be a way. By the way, don't buy any copper rounds yet. I am absolutely fucking blown away by how greedy these sons of bitches are. $4 or $5 for a copper round, 1 ounce. Are you shitting me? It's $6.50 for a pound of it, and you want to make a coin and then charge me $5 for 1 ounce? What? No, I'm not paying $150, $200 a pound for copper just because it's in coinage. The reason I say that is because clearly I'm going to start minting coins. I'm going to start making my own coins. I don't have any choice. I'm not going to let my clients get screwed. $4 for a 1 ounce of copper. Come on, man. You're never going to break even. You're never going to break even. Couple bucks over spot, shit, you'll make that back next week. That's like, I don't feel bad about making $1 or $2 over spot, but having to charge you guys $5 for 1 ounce and not making a dime on it, what? It's just craziness. So right now I'm looking into, I actually have all kinds of shit pulled up. I'm looking for copper blanks that are completely, uninscribed, so that we can mint our own coins. I think that would be kind of fun. So I'm looking into it. I should know in the next week or two. In the meantime, you guys have a great night. And hey, remember, buy my book. Call me if you want some silver. And tomorrow morning, I'll be able to check to see if this thing about the new coins at 20 grand, and then all of the options that are being bought up for $20,000 gold in December. Call options at 20 grand. Somebody knows something, man. Somebody knows something. All right, all my YouTubers, thank you for hanging in there with me tonight. I appreciate it. It was fun. I'm going to, oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you guys about this, but I started off at 333 and I'm at 324. And it's been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So today's the fourth day on this Reddit TrueTide stuff. It really looks like it's working. And I feel great. I haven't been sick or anything. So we'll see. All right, man. I will see you guys tomorrow, too. Have a great night.